Il primo relatore è il dottor Serge Beddington Behrens, è psicoterapeuta e formatore transpersonale da moltissimi anni. Negli anni 70 ha fondato l'Istituto per gli Studi sulla coscienza a San Francisco e nella sua presentazione ci accompagna attraverso delle riflessioni sul concetto di male e che tipo di impatto questo abbia sulla nostra vita. Prego, professore.
Hi there. Thank you for this lovely conference, and it's lovely to be here. And I'm going to talk on a slightly sort of different subject, but I think it's very relevant to unity. I've just finished a book on the spiritual heart and how the new society can only be created not by a higher consciousness, but by a heart consciousness. And it brought me very much into the area of the dark side, both in my researches and in my personal journey on ayahuasca and meditation. There's been a lot of exploration on evil, because I think if we want a better world, we need to address evil. There's a saying, if good men avoid evil, evil is what happens when good people do nothing. Evil is also, if we try to do something by attacking it, it gets worse. Like the terrorists, we attack the terrorists and the world becomes more imbalanced. So I think we need to understand evil, how we participate in it, and what we can do to heal it. And because I think it's a fact of life that we need to acknowledge. And at one level, I think we need to understand it, at one level, evil is in the eye of the beholder. If you were George Bush, Osama bin Laden was evil. If you are President Ahmadinejad of Iran, the Jews are the evil people. So it's something to do with something that we create out of a split consciousness. It's something to do with a mindset that divides life into good and evil. And we like to be on the good side, so they, whoever we choose to be our enemy, is the evil one. And of course, if you know the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we are always Dr. Jekyll. We're always on the good side. So it's connected at one level to the way that we cut off from ourselves. We split off what we don't want to see and we push it out there, both at a personal level in our shadow and out on the planet. And we see the outcasted zones on the planet, the Gaza Strip, Darfur, the Congo. They are all the places that we've not wanted to integrate socially into our own heart. R.D. Laing said this: what we call normal is a product of repression, denial, splitting, projection, and other forms of destructive action on experience. And normal men have killed perhaps 100 million of their fellow normal men in the last 50 years. So we see that there's a lot of evil in war that we think is normal. We think it's normal, or a certain consciousness on our planet thinks it's normal to have peace through war. And what always happens around war is there's always a religious fervor. It's almost as if we use soul to create soullessness. We invoke God to be on our side to help us kill the infidel or the evil people on the other side of the fence. We saw that in the Crusades in the Middle Ages. We see this in the Western onslaught against terrorism. And George Bush and Tony Blair thought they were great heroes to liberate the world. So there's a lot of self-righteousness. You see, they don't realize they're being evil. And I think there's two kinds of evil in the world. The one kind is the kind we all understand, and I'll call that obvious evil. An obvious evil is Hitler, Robert Mugabe, ethnic cleansing, Auschwitz, torture, terror camps. We all know about this evil. And in fact, we like to make that the excuse to feel self-righteous. Because the most insidious evil that we need to deal with is what I'm calling unobvious evil. And it's unobvious because we don't think it's evil. Where we're always projecting some part of what we don't want to see in ourselves onto another person. So we always have to have hooks. And it's evil because it pretends not to be evil. And the people who propagate this evil are not dark, sinister figures from these horror and terror movies. You know, there's this movie in England called the Terror on Elm Street and the Poltergeist. Evil is much more sinister. It's quite interesting if you look at the man who what's his name? Adolf Eichmann. He wasn't a terrible, evil person. He was an insignificant little man who was emotionally numb, who was trained to obey orders, who had no imagination and never asked questions, and operated in a robotic fashion. Rather like the pilots of the plane who dropped the bomb on Japan to end the Second World War. Had those people been able to feel the pain, just a weeny bit of the pain that they might have been creating by dropping those bombs, would they have dropped them? So I'm saying that evil is connected to unconsciousness, a numbed emotional heart, relating to a lack of responsibility for what we do. And it's not as if it's out there, and those people are the evil ones. We all need to see, where do we participate in this? And it's always a possibility if we haven't developed a higher moral sensibility. Hermann Hesse said this, it's beautiful. We kill at every step, not only in wars, riots, and executions. We kill when we close our eyes to poverty, suffering, and shame. In the same way, all disrespect for life, all hard-heartedness, indifference, contempt is nothing more than killing. With just a little witty skepticism, we can kill a good deal of the future in a young person. In his book, The People of the Lie, Scott Peck said this: evil people may be rich or poor, educated or uneducated. There's little that's dramatic in them. And probably they'll be solid citizens like policemen and Sunday school teachers and bankers and soldiers. And their evil is they commit crimes against life and aliveness. These people are destructive because they attempt to destroy evil, often in the name of self-righteousness, Blair and Bush, instead of working it through within themselves. And they're dedicated to preserving their self-image of perfection and moral purity. They dress well, they go to work on time, and they're concerned what others think about them. And they really desire to appear good. And that's, I think, very important to understand, because if this is our image of ourselves that we're trying to move out of in order to create a better world, we create the better world by working through these parts of ourselves. And our problem is that we spend all our time attacking Robert Mugabe, Saddam Hussein, the obvious things of evil in the world, without looking at the evil that actually lurks inside our own heart. So what do we do about it? Well, I recently read Stan Groff's book on the cosmic game, and Stan, you said a lovely thing: evil's a part of life, and if we don't have evil, if we don't have terrorists and bad people to fight against, we can't be a freedom fighter. We can't have Mother Teresa's and wonderful people. So it's a fact of life at some level. Jung thought it a fact of life. Before the Second World War, he said it's here to stay, so we might as well look at it. There's 4 things we do. We need to be clear about unobvious evil and look into our own hearts and see the darkness there. And see that, as Thich Nhat Hanh, the great peace activist, said, we have to own the rapist, the murderer is inside ourselves. We need to own our own capacity for evil. And this is tough work, and we can only do it if we have a big heart. And we need a big heart to go deep into the evil, just like if we want to go deep underwater and scuba dive, we need to have lots of air on our backs. You know, otherwise we can get caught. So we need to see how engaged, how identified are we in wanting to appear good, in our self-image. And again, we look at, in England, one talks about people in power as the great and the good. These are mainly people who've made a huge amount of money through milking the system, and they're so-called very respectable. They're on the high ranks in our banking system, in our political system. We need to see them and then see, is there a part of ourselves that is that? That's the first thing. That's the psychological dimension of working with evil. The second dimension is the spiritual. We grow the qualities of our heart in the garden of our heart through caring for the garden of our heart, through growing our love and our wisdom and our kindness and doing all the things that we do on the spiritual path. Because it follows that the more love and tenderness and kindness and a desire to share, the less we create a space for evil to come in. And the more these qualities are injected into the forms of our world, the more we allow the soul of our organizations to begin to dance, and then we allow their higher function to come into being. At another level, we deal with evil by not engaging in any way with anything that is connected. We don't have shares. We don't have anything to do with organizations that make money selling weapons. We don't have anything to do with anything that kills life, in the broader sense that Hermann Hesse meant, which means we honor our parents, we respect our children, we respect people different to us, we try to love our neighbors as ourselves. We try to bring heart into our work, because I think it's through my heart that my soul talks to me. And if my soul talks to me, then I can bring soul into the world in my encounters with people and in the work I do. And then, of course, we can send healing energy to conflict zones on the planet, and we can pray for peace. In that great poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson called Mort Dartha, there's a line that goes, "More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of." So we can pray. And then, of course, there's all the outer things that we can do as an activist of a new culture. We protest. We go on peace marches. We sing songs of peace like we've heard earlier. We create strategies to help people who are dispossessed because of evil. We raise money for causes that bring about healing onto the planet. We lecture like this on the evils of evil. I've got a large portion of my book that deals in all the ways that we do evil and how we need to heal them. And we select a particular area of evil that is our special concern. It may be the cutting down of rainforests for gain. It may be the putting down of gay people. It may be the issue of drugs, because the whole issue of drugs is related, drug addiction, to a particular sad level of consciousness in which you try to bring something in as a substitute way of healing. And so we choose to live our lives, I like to use the word heartfully as opposed to mindfully, because heartfully implies the mind of the heart. And we try to live our lives as heartfully as possible, so that less and less are we a space to allow evil to appear. And I think if evil is to be addressed in the world, all of us in this room, we've all got our little bit to do. Thanks.
Molte grazie al professor Behrens per questa presentazione molto interessante, per queste riflessioni sul concetto di male. Tutto quello che ha detto mi ha ricordato il fatto che coraggio, la parola coraggio in italiano deriva dall'etimologia latina coragere, agire col cuore, e trovo che le sue parole siano veramente un grande invito e diano la forza e l'intensità ad ognuno di noi di avere il coraggio di guardare la propria ombra, di avere il cuore per accettare e accogliere la propria ombra. Grazie molte. Se qualcuno vuole rivolgere delle domande al professore, abbiamo 10 minuti di tempo per la condivisione di questo spazio, e anche se i relatori che sono qui di fianco a me, i professori che sono qui di fianco a me, vogliono aggiungere qualcosa rispetto a quello che ha detto il professor Beddington, un intervento gradito. Ok, abbiamo una domanda e qui un'altra, se portate un microfono, grazie.
Vado?
Okay.
Allora, grazie per il bellissimo intervento, io sono Bertali, sono psichiatra e mi domandavo nel cuore proprio se bisogna considerare forse con più attenzione e intenzione, in questa logica del male non ovvio, il male che si procura continuando a non fare la scelta vegetariana. Io sono vegetariano da tanto tempo e credo che, parlando di questo male non ovvio e parlando anche di un percorso così spirituale, in questa logica transpersonale, debba essere assolutamente considerata, no, questa via, per me non come opportunità, ma come assoluta necessità. Lo dico con molta gentilezza, sono emozionato perché è una cosa che mi coinvolge da tanti anni, insieme a mia moglie, insieme ai miei figli, e quindi ecco, credo che un movimento come questo debba spendersi molto in questa consapevolezza e in questa, diciamo, diffusione di questo messaggio. Grazie.
Serge, I want to argue with you. My point of view is that there is no evil. The world is kind. So, but I will ask you, which point is less evil, mine or yours?
Well, I used to agree with you when I studied the Course of Miracles. At one level, one can say that the heart or the soul of all evil action is a desire to do good. Like the war in Iraq, at some level that there was a desire deep down to bring, freedom and liberation. Of course, it was permeated by all the sort of ego wounds, but I can't comment. I just feel that it's a little bit Pollyanna-ish to say there's no evil, especially if one has visited, as I have, people in disaster zones whose whole lives have been destroyed by war and bombing and terrible, terrible suffering. I guess I personally, this is just me, I just feel I need to do something about that.
So you think that your point of view is less evil than mine?
Well, I don't think that your point of view is evil, and I hope my point of view isn't evil.
Which point is more kind? Which is more generous? Which is more positive?
Well, I guess, however you want to see it, I can't comment. Perhaps anyone else can comment. Okay. There's someone behind you who perhaps.
I think that both points make the part of the dualistic discourse.
May I just say, I don't remember who said this, but someone once said that nothing is good or evil, but thinking makes it so. It's our thinking that makes it so.
Yeah.
I agree.
Can we have it to the front now? So, yeah.
Okay, I'll just be talking from the point of view of what I've seen in people who have experienced some really powerful non-ordinary states. First with psychedelics, then the holotropic breathwork, people in spiritual emergency. And basically the insight is that what's happening here is formed and informed from the archetypal level. And the archetypes are dichotomized. And, we want to change the world so that we take out everything that's dark, that shouldn't be there. But we cannot put half of the archetypes out of business. I mean, if you are astrologers, there is going to be Jupiter, there's also going to be Mars and Pluto. And so if we want to change the world, we would have to redirect the energy. We have to honor those archetypes. We have to find some other ways. Let's say what's the kind of energy that's going into into rockets that would be killing. It can be redirected to space program. You know, the energies would be there, but like in martial arts, would be sort of directed somewhere else. And I believe that another powerful way is you allow those archetypes express themselves in your inner world. So I believe that doing some powerful inner work really takes the dark energy out of the world. But I don't think we cannot certainly say there's no evil, there's no dark side, and I don't think we can just sort of find some magic way of taking it out.
Thank you. I would just say that there's a little story that I discovered that exists in all the religious traditions, and I'll just sort of tell it very simply. Once upon a time, God found that his creation was not working very well. Everyone was just lying down and feeding each other with grapes, and evolution was not moving. It was all too easy. So God got on the phone to his buddy, the devil, and said, "Hey, Buster, come and just stir things up a little bit because my creation isn't really working." So the devil said, "Okay, I'll come along." Now, Ramakrishna, when asked why evil existed, said, it's to thicken the plot. So as Stan Groff was saying, the plot is always there to be thickened. And if there wasn't any evil in the world, I guess none of us would need to be here at this conference.